So yeah, a
Or-
closure it is is the metaphor of the train, and one that I like in particular because it says it's our train, it was just has no had no stops, no bends and no stops. So, it's a train that was destined to crash in a way. And I think, as I said, is just an observation of how these things happen. And once again, I think we need to grow through these things, and instead of either being resentful or trying to blame, and can be blame someone else, can blame ourselves, whatever it is. I think it is useful to just learn from things and then just move on, and try to remember that we are all human beings, and sometimes we have our we are no one is perfect. So, sometimes maybe two human beings that are not perfect, they're just, their imperfections, they're just not compatible. I don't know, but it's more the spirit of observation. I think in the past with no sound, I tended to be possibly either more blaming or more self blaming, or you know what I mean, just being a bit
yeah,
self-absorbed. While I think that age brings this just observing and just yeah, just thinking about these things and just making a bit of sense of them, being at peace with them, and in a way, just observe how the beauty of life also in that, how things evolve and change, and trying to make sense of all of it, in this big adventure that is life, I suppose.
definitely. Now, are you, because I know you never stop, but are you working on the next album yet, or another solo, or what's
Well, I mean,
next?
good. There is one long song for a solo album, which sooner or later I will finish and I will add some more of it. It's just about finding time. Basically, there is already another mini album and something done with no sound, but as usual, like with this one, I just want to wait where I feel that, the songs make sense, and usually this when it is with working through them, and then at some point you just realize, oh, actually that's an album, makes sense. So yeah, there is a lot of material ready. It's just about going through it.
Excellent. All right. Well, there you go. You won't have long to wait for the
No,
next
hopefully
EP.
not.
All right. Now, two other things that a lot of people may not even know about, but if you follow him on Facebook and probably social media, you'll see these things. But he was a Starmus conference speaker and member, founder, creative technologist. So he's not just a musician, he's also into technology. Tell us about that. And that must be a lot of fun. And you're meeting with some very, very important people within all those different fields. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very interesting. Usually not. I don't get asked of all the other stuff, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's all about creativity, if you know what I mean. I mean,
Yes.
creativity has many ways of expression, and I've always been fascinated by creativity linked to technology. I literally grew up with a computer and music instruments. They've always been my passion, if you want, since I was probably 14 or 13. And I always knew that in life this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be creative with music, so with art, and then I wanted to be creative with everything else. So, as being I mean, I am not an engineer, so I'm coming from, I studied philosophy, classic languages, Latin, Greek, philosophy, all sorts of things. But technology has always been something that fascinated me deeply. Be it programming, developing, engineering, photography, astrophotography. I do lots of astrophotography,
We're going to
and
get to that next.
and so yeah, I mean, I suppose that over the years, the technology career, if you want, went in parallel, and eventually, you become I don't know, director, or you become someone that manages projects. That means that you can be creative. And, business is fascinating. Business is a world where you need lots of ingenuity, and at the same time, it is something that teaches a lot of stuff with music, because very often I talk with new bands, and they always ask me, "Oh, I don't know, we have a demo, we want to write to record label and stuff," and it's very hard to explain to them that actually music is an industry. A record label needs to pay bills and wages, and you know what I mean. That it is not a charity, even if you're talking about we're talking about art, and very often, surprisingly often, there is still this idea that somehow, if you're an artist, you are entitled to just skip over all of that because someone should pay you because you're an artist, just because you're an artist. And unless we go back into, I don't know, the times where, I don't know, in medieval times, when you were someone that was paying you to make art. I mean, it doesn't work anymore like that. So, I mean, being involved in business, I think it helps a lot to get that perspective of the music industry, and trying to know how to, for example, like we did with Nosound, how to invest a lot of personal money on it, to sell, to go to distributors before you were signing to any record label, and then to grow your fan base, to have interactions with the press, and as I said, distributors, shops, online shops, offline shops, accounting, all these things that are essential to just grow up a business that then is, it is good enough to then go on a record label, because people are buying your album because with their money, and the album is made with other money. We live in a society where we make things with money, so like it or not, this is what we need to deal with. So, and yeah, and basically then the technology or engineering, if you want, thing led me to what I do mostly now, which, as you said, it is lots of public speaking. I organize summits. So in a way, the circle is closed, because I have lots of people that just call me to speak at conferences and stuff, because I like to be on stage, and I don't see any difference when, oh, you're a professional musician. Yeah, I'm a musician. I just tour, and speaking at a conference and trying to get people with me is not different than playing my guitar and singing and trying to get an audience with me. So, once again, even more in the last probably 4 or 5 years, obviously we have artificial intelligence, which has always been very fascinating for me, because it's like the ideal, if you want, once again, closure of the circle. There is a lot of technology in it, but there is also creativity, there is language, there is, in a way, there is philosophy. People talking about, what is artificial intelligence, so what is consciousness, how it is, all these topics, which is what I usually talk about. It is incredibly fascinating, and it is like, it is such a massive revolution that it didn't even start yet. We're just at the start of it. So yeah, I feel very fortunate. It's also what allows me every time, as I said before, to be lucky that music pays, but I don't need, I can do other stuff which I'm equally passionate about and is equally creative, and I can make sure that art always has a place that comes from inspiration and never from a need of money.
All right. And so then you would say you embrace AI,
Well,
or
no,
not, maybe that's not the word. You're interested. You're not fighting against it. You're not,
no, I
yeah,
don't. No. I mean, I have a mission. This is what I
resisting.
do.
Yeah.
I have a mission. This is what I do most of the times. My mission is that, it's like, it reminds me when, when the internet arrived, if you want, I wouldn't say mobile phones, but when the internet arrived, it was the same thing. Lots of people were saying, I'm not interested. I'm not going on the internet. And it was quite clear to me that I was thinking, there's not an option if you're going on the internet or not.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like, I don't know, when they invented the car and people said, "Oh, I don't care about it." Or, I don't know, when there was the coach, I don't care about the coach. I will keep using my horse. Well, you can. You can do whatever you want, but I mean, the very nature of human condition, it is to just going forward. You can't go backward. And it doesn't mean that forward is always right. But, artificial intelligence is a very complex topic. And I think that the best I can do it is to try and explain to people what it is and what it means, because most people that are afraid of things, they are afraid of things
Yeah.
because they don't know about them.
They don't
And
know.
so
Yeah.
my mission is always to say I'm not I'm not a fan of anything. I'm just here to explain to you, and then it's up to you. But I want you to decide coming from an informed point of view, not from a place of fear, because a
Yeah.
place of fear, you're not deciding. You're just deciding to not know, but that is not a decision. You
Yeah.
should know, and then you should decide, I'm interested or I'm not. So, I mean, as I said, it's like with the internet. Any business that when we started the internet, that was saying, "Oh, we don't need the internet. We're not going to be on the internet." Nowadays, they are either on the internet or they don't exist anymore.
Or you don't. Yeah. 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 You have to be.
So
Yeah.
I'm just, I don't say, I mean, artificial intelligence is fantastic for many things. It is a very difficult topic for many other things, but the difficult topics, they are our responsibility. This is what I always tell people. I said, I don't like people saying that governments should do something, or I don't know, the tech giants should do something. I don't trust neither of them. It is our responsibility as a society to drive things, because we, with our purchase decisions, we can make change, we can make big
Yeah.
companies change their mind. And so my mission is to educate people so that we as a society take responsibility. We failed with social media. Social media is a big problem. People, committing suicide, teenagers just spending all the time
Yeah.
on social media. As a society, we failed because parents failed to embrace social media and then basically be able to educate as well and be near the
Yeah.
young part of the population. And I'm just trying to make sure that doesn't happen again with artificial. It's not going to go, and it's not going to go away. It's not like a fad or something. It's going to change society deeply.
Yeah.
And that worries me. It worries me that changes society, a society that doesn't know what is happening.
Yeah.
So that is where I'm coming from, I suppose.
All right. Do you want to the three that I saw in the conference, Tweetify IT, Audio Shapes, and Altair? Do you want to just talk about those, or just to
Oh, I mean,
kind of?
I suppose that people, if they want, they can look at for me on LinkedIn and just look at that. It's just all different projects and stuff that I'm involved with. And
Are those applications that they can use to either create music or
no, it's not related to music.
not?
No, it's
Okay.
not. That is not something that is related to music. Usually, the conference is like when I was at Starmus, for example. That is where it's related to music. So it is where I try to approach, if you want, well, I mean, talking about artificial intelligence, approaching it from the creative's point of view. So,
Okay.
what does it mean for creativity? And then it's all a very interesting subject that, usually talk for an hour in a conference with other creatives, because it's all about, so what is creativity? Actually, I think that the arrival of artificial intelligence actually prompts very deep questions on ourselves. So, what is creativity? What is inspiration? And it is a very complex subject. So, yeah, it's just fascinating, and I think it is a very big part of creativity. This is why I like it.
All right. And then you call it astrophotos and the stars. We all
Yeah.
love the stars. We all love the galaxy at night. And a lot of us here in the U.S. finally got a chance to get outside and watch the fireworks. And then when the fireworks cleared, oh my God, look at that. But you're somebody that has a telescope and then definitely takes pictures, a sophisticated telescope. But talk about that and your interest in photography
Yeah,
in general.
it's always been, I don't have much time to be honest, but that is the one hobby that I have, and it's always been something part of my life. It's now 20 years that I do that. So, yeah, I've always been fascinated by science and in particular by astrophysics. So, and photography. Photography has always been obviously part of my thing. So, astrophotography has always been like the natural consequence for me. And technology once again evolved a lot. It's one of the astrophotography it is very technical. It requires a lot of patience. I think it's similar to fishing. It requires a lot of
Yeah.
patience, it requires knowledge, and it requires a lot of kit. So maybe it's a very man thing, but it is really something where when I have time, it's not very often, but where I have time, I do like to get lost into it because once again, it's not for an outcome, it's not for a speech, it's not for an album. It is just for my pure enjoyment
Enjoyment.
of, yeah, and the fascination of obviously of space because when we take photo when we know when you take a photo that usually lasts many months of work, it is always fascinating to know that those photons of light, they travel to sometimes millions of years. So basically you are literally traveling back in time. And that is something that fascinated me since I was a kid. So, since the first time I just put randomly an eye on a telescope and I've looked at Saturn and I've seen the rings of Saturn. That was literally where I just thought this thing is gonna come with me and it's gonna be part of my life. And yeah, it still is today. And it's really, really beautiful, as I said, I really love it.
And you must love this new place in Chile, that they built that's really improving. Which it to me it's amazing because it's still here on Earth versus Hubble and
Yeah.
all the other ones that are out in space. You would think those are better, although the technology is much more improved in this one here in Chile. But yeah, I'm fascinated by it myself. I love it. I love looking at pictures of the stars. Would love to someday be there. I know that's not going to happen, but you know, hopefully my son and future generations will have that Star Wars and Star Trek adventure. But I don't think I'll make it.
Yeah, no, it's a
If
fascinating.
you could go, where would you go? If let's just say they could make, those things they use in Star Trek and just have you beam you somewhere, where would
Oh,
you go?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Probably, I mean, I suppose that I'm very fast. I suppose probably the moon will be because, on the moon you still see planet Earth. So, I wouldn't feel too scared of, going
Being too far. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, being too far. But I mean, to be honest, probably what I would like, I mean, I think would be fascinating to see our own galaxy because,
Yeah.
it is the one that we can't see because we are into it. So, I mean, yeah, we see the Milky Way, obviously, but, we see from within, and it would be fascinating to see it, like I can see the Andromeda galaxy, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So that would be probably something that, just beam me somewhere where I can see our own lovely the Milky Way galaxy, in wholeness, basically. That is something that I would love to do.
I'd love to go to that. It used to be either Saturn or Venus, but now that new huge, it's like two or three, no, maybe four or five times the Earth size blue planet. I would love to see that because I think that, I mean, with our current knowledge, that's probably where future generations are probably going to migrate. Who knows? But have you know the one I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
I don't know the
One of
name
the
or
exo
anything, but
is
it's
one
like
of the exoplanets.
it makes the Earth look like a little tiny dot, but it's a huge
Hmm.
blue planet, and no, and we don't know, is that ocean? No one knows, but it looks like Earth just magnified. I don't know, 5, 10 times. But that's the one that I'm curious about. But
Sounds like
that it's many, many, many light years away, and it'll be probably centuries before we ever get there. But who knows?
sounds like another interesting place to be, probably.
Yeah, just to see what it's like, see how it
Yeah,
compares.
definitely, definitely.
We'll get there, and there's probably dinosaurs. No, I'm kidding. um, well, is there anything else that you would like to talk about? And part of that's we just got back from Jurassic Park last night and watched the new one. And So anyway, anyway, no, but is there anything else that you would like to talk about or mention?
Oh, it mostly just the fact that, once again, this album is like has been, has been possible. We talked about the K-Scope, obviously, and stuff, but the band and the usual, their willingness to work, even if it is a distance and stuff, is always very important. And without them, there would simply be no to the core. So I think that is always important to the friendship in particular that joins us. I think it's a very important element of this album. And then obviously, yeah, the graphics and the contribution of Louise, that she's doing amazing. I think that the graphic project for this album is probably my favorite of all
Cover.
of them because it's always been photography that I've needed to do myself. While in this case, I think it is very nice. We work together on. I always wanted to do something that was more hand-drawn drawings, if you want. And then, she knew the music, and then some of the concepts we work on them together. Some of them she just went with it, and so it was very nice to share the album, if you want, with what is my partner. So I think that it was very. I think that there is I can perceive that in the album, and her contribution as well into War Not Past, which is a very I suppose emotional or meaningful song for both of us. I think that it probably elevated it in terms of power. So yeah.
All right. Um, Anything else you want to add? Otherwise, definitely want to thank you again, Giancarlo. It's wonderful. Always fun talking with you. I always learn from these discussions, but fantastic album. Go ahead.
Thank Thank you. No, I mean, just thank you for having me. It's always great to have this, all-encompassing chat. I always enjoy when, we go and talk about a bit of everything from planets
I
to,
try to. Yeah. Yeah.
planets to AI to whatever music. I think they're always the best. So yeah, and then, it's just thanks to everyone that purchased the album or listened to the album because as we were saying before, music is just for connecting people. So if artists were making music and there was no one listening, there wouldn't be no music. So
No
there's always
reason. Yeah.
the music is made by equally by whoever writes it and then whoever listens to it. They have equal part in it.
Well, get out there, everyone, and give To the Core a listen. And I think once you hear it, you'll want to own it. And thank you again, Giancarlo Erra, for a wonderful discussion here at the Noble Shire Progressive Discussion. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and turn off the recording here.